All right, the meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as Trustee Reed leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators, as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start with our superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell, members of the board. A few things to report tonight. Some events that I was really pleased to have been at. Got to go to a couple of regional concerts for fine arts, to include middle school band and high school orchestra. I am always amazed at the talent of those young folks, and in both cases, our region is almost completely dominated by Northside kids. But it's fascinating to see kids pulled together from multiple schools at the middle school and the high school level, and they come together over a day and a half and produce absolutely beautiful music. It's amazing, and thanks to our fine arts instructors for all that they do. Before the holidays, mentioned that I was invited to attend a meeting with the Texas Association of Business, some legislative staffers, and some school folks, looking for ways to work together on school legislation that'll help our state. It was a really productive meeting. Some of the members of the board will remember a time where the Texas Association of Business didn't want to have a lot of conversation with school folks, and we didn't find a lot of agreement, and that has changed. It was a very productive meeting, and I feel confident that we'll find some areas that we can work on in the coming session. Also before the holidays, and our members of the cabinet try to do this every year, we went and spent a day in the life of an elementary school student. It's good for all of us to sit on the floor a little while and remember what it's like, not only for those kids, but for those teachers and staff as well. And my visit was amazing, and listening to the cabinet talk about their experiences, I think we all saw incredible things at our elementary schools. We'll be scheduling visits at our secondary schools later in the spring. Got asked to do a cameo performance, and when I say cameo performance, I mean like 3 lines, period, at Brandeis High School's musical Beauty and the Beast. And I know that some of the other members of the board saw musicals around the district in November and December, and it is amazing to see the coordination required and the numbers of kids that participate in a high school musical. So I did not mess up my lines in my one little cameo, but I was the understudy to a young man who coached me well. So I survived my experience, and I did not mess it up for everybody else. Have had, since we came back from the holidays, an opportunity to speak to several groups. Really enjoyed a conversation with members of the Museum Association, some of whom are here tonight, as well as to our Council of PTAs, again, some of whom are here tonight. Had a little state of the district for our PTA. And then when I went to speak about the Museum Association, had a lot of questions about charter schools and how they operate and why they operate the way that they do. And I bet we spent more than an hour on that topic. Speaking of charter schools, last week I was part of a group dominated by school folks and teacher groups and others who testified to TEA staff about proposed rules that would allow charter schools to expand with even less effort than is required today. And that was interesting testimony, and we will see what comes of that once TEA posts its rule. So one last thing, and I know some of the other trustees may want to comment on this. Some of us had the opportunity to go to Jefferson Middle School and meet with Justice Jefferson and his siblings, and then listen to him interact with kids for an extended period of time. And as you always are when you're in the presence of Wallace Jefferson, you come away just really impressed with the man, what kind of person he is. But I thought the interaction with the kids was just really fascinating. The kids had very thoughtful, very insightful questions that I thought he and his siblings did a great job answering. It was probably one of the most uplifting experiences I've had in a long time. It was really impactful, I thought, really, really impressive. So I'll close with this, and we're going to come back to this under recognitions. But as this is January, and we each January celebrate members of our board all across the state, right? Folks take time to thank the consummate volunteers that are school board trustees. And in an era where it's become really fashionable, I think, to bash governance and to question the value of governance, I just can't say enough, and you'll hear it a lot more this evening, how much we appreciate, all of us, the royal we in this room and in this community, appreciate the service of the 7 of you. We cannot thank you enough for your volunteerism and for your diligence, for your care for staff, and for your care for our children and our patrons. So thanks to the members of our board, and we will circle back to that item. Am I doing video now or no, Monica? No. Okay, sorry, I'm off my lines. Got it. With that, Dr. Harrell, that concludes Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. Are there any reports from the trustees? Ms. Reed?
Yeah, I was going to say that to follow up about the Jefferson Middle School, I actually knew his parents. They served on the Salvation Army Board with me, and were also fascinating people, and have known Wallace since he was much, much younger, since before he was a justice. And you're right, it was a remarkable family, and the fact that he is including his siblings in the discussions he has with the kids over there, I think is a very meaningful thing for him to do. And it's my understanding that every time he comes, he brings some of his siblings with him. They're not always the same ones because it's a large family. But it's a unique experience, and it was for us, and just think how unique it was for the kids over there. And then he does go around and walks through the halls and talks to people too. So it was really nice to be able to be there. So I was glad that the building committee got over in time for us to get there, because a lot of times we don't quite make it in time. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention, because this is School Board Appreciation Month, I was invited to go to Rhodes Elementary School, and they had a PTA meeting followed by a presentation from the 3rd grade class of musical hit songs from the Broadway plays, which was just fun.
Wow.
And they told us we could sing along if we wanted to. Some of the songs I knew, some of them I didn't. A lot of the new ones I didn't know, but I did get a T-shirt and had a nice time, and was invited to come back today, which I did just briefly, for their pop. I can't remember. It's pop something that they have anyway. They have a program over there where the teachers can nominate a student for an award based on good citizenship. And so there were a student from each one of the classes over there that were included in that. And we took pictures on the stairs. In case you're not familiar with that school, it goes downhill. And so the hallway goes downhill, and then there's stairs and slopes all the way through. So it turns out a nice location to put a whole bunch of kids on those stairs and take a picture. And then we went to the room that's normally the room for teachers. They told the kids, you're going to get to go to a room that kids don't normally get to go to. And they had popcorn in a cup. And on top of that, they put M&Ms on top of that. And the kids all had a blast. So I went around the room and talked to a bunch of them and asked them what they had done to get this award. And they said, just being a good person. You know, it's amazing what that will help you to achieve. And being nice to others and not saying bad things and so forth. So I was glad that I was able to make that over there today. And I also found out that one of our past superintendents up there, Ed Cody, lives kind of just around the corner and down the street from there. So I'm going to see if he can't to be invited over to Rhodes to have some interaction with them also. So there's always lots of opportunity for us to meet with kids and students and teachers. And I'm fortunate that I don't have a job and I can do that maybe more than some other people can. So it was nice to do that this month. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Reed. Ms. Freeman?
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. I too was at the at Jefferson Middle School, and I got to tell you that the family they were just rock stars with how they interacted with the kids, and their presentation was to them. He and his family talked to the students and at their level, and that was really good. And he attributed they all did attributed their success to, and he told the story about his parents and his family and how much his parents had made a difference in his life, and he attributes his success, or they all do, to their parents, and that was and to teachers. I thought that was really it's really good. To my fellow school board trustees, just to remember grassroots meeting. We start the advocacy process for Texas Association of School Boards is February 20th at Region 20 from 6 to 8. And we do need a head count for that, so tell Linda if you have any intentions of going. Also, and I would encourage us all to be there. Our last board meeting, we approved a list of concerns that we have, or the issues that we would like discussed at that grassroots meeting, and have that bubble up to the TASB advocacy agenda. So it's important for us to be there. Also, at the same time, MASBA, the Mexican Association of School Boards, is having their annual meeting here, and it's their 50th anniversary. So you might want to consider looking into that, and I know that was posted in Friday Letter as well. And then Bobby, when I was talking to him, just mentioned that the TABSE, the Texas Alliance of Black School Educators, they're actually having their meeting, and I know that I'm going to say this because we have somebody outside. The principal of Warren was recognized last year, Bobby.
That's different, yeah. That's different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I misspoke.
And there she is.
But congratulations. Hi, Valerie Siska.
We'll push for you next
Congratulations
year.
regardless.
We gotcha.
I saw you out there, and it made me think of that. That's also going on at the same time, and I know Bobby said that we're encouraged to also attend that. So perhaps you could give us information regarding that, or have Linda post that in Friday Letter too. And for School Board Appreciation Month, I got invited to Boone Elementary School, and it's a school that I haven't been in since we've done all the renovations. Most recently, we added a security lobby, but a couple years ago, we actually redid the whole lobby of that school. And in talking to the principal, Miss Haber, she said she wished she had a camera, because the kids came back. I don't know if it was our winter break or spring break, but the kids came back and walked into the school, and they were all just in awe of the different look of that particular lobby. And we also have a big mural on the back, and it's their mascot is the Mustang, and so it's absolutely beautiful. It's a welcoming place. And you can tell you're in the right place. So walking in the halls with Miss Haber, the kids say, "Hi, Miss Haber," and they all know her by name, and she knows them. And so it was a very nice. I appreciated the time I had at Boone. I was invited there to. They had a spelling bee, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and there was as much tension on that stage as any other competition that I've ever been in. Those kids, they had to go up to the mic and spell the word, and you could see them, they were just fidgeting, but it was wonderful. The little girl who won, she's a 5th grader, she actually won 2 years ago, and so she was a 2-time Boone Elementary School champion. And then I had the opportunity today to have lunch with the 5th graders, a group of 5th graders at Boone who had perfect attendance for the first semester. And there must have been about 8 of them. And she does that with different grade levels, and they get their lunch in the cafeteria and they bring it to the conference room in the office, and the principal sits and talks with them. And I had the opportunity to be part of that conversation. And so I asked them about middle school and what they thought about middle school, and if they had any anxieties about middle school or excitement. And they were really excited about the opportunity to take elective classes. This one little boy was really excited because in his middle school, that particular school feeds into Rawlinson as well as Rudder. And at middle school, he was told that he could, with a friend, just invent a club. And as long as there were 2 of them and they could find a sponsor, they could have a club. And so his club was the Ramen Noodle Club. He just thought that was interesting. This was the same kid who was looking forward to taking algebra.
Not a bad idea for it.
One of his, yeah. I'm not sure what they were going to do with the Ramen Noodle Club, but it was just, he was really excited about it. And this was the same little guy who was excited about going to middle school and taking algebra. So, but it was really good discussion. I really appreciated the opportunity. And to top it all off, I also had the opportunity to eat lunch with them. So that meant cafeteria lunch food. So I got to go through the cafeteria line, and one of the options today was chicken teriyaki. And if Thomas Weary was here, I would say, well, congratulations. I know that our schools do a lot to make our lunches healthy as well as tasty for the kids, but that was the best chicken teriyaki and rice I've had in a very long time. And we had an option of 3 vegetables and 2 fruits. So that was an experience, a real good experience. So anyway.
Yay.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell.
Well, thank you, Ms. Freeman. Ms. Chumbley?
So I've got let me turn it on. Just a couple of things. First off, David, I learned a term today that I thought would really apply to our conversations. It's POC, point of confusion. And I thought, I learned it at the last minute because this is your last board meeting. It is. So I want to say thank you for everything that you have done. And I know that there's going to be lots of wonderful things said about you at your retirement party, but I didn't want,
Or not.
you know, we had threatened all sorts of things that we were going to do to you tonight. And so just know that we didn't do that. But I did learn that term, and I thought that would have been a perfect term to be able to say, POC, David, point of confusion. So anyway, thank you for all that you have done for us. I want to add just 2 quick stories about Jefferson, because Katie, you were spot on. He is just an amazing man, and just listening to him talk. But there was one thing he had said as we were out walking that he told the kids, I believe, as well, and he talked about what it meant to be their namesake and how important that was to him, and that it made him think about the things that he does because he knows that he is representing all of those students at his school. And I thought, that was just really heartfelt to hear a namesake say that honor means that much, and that he truly looks at the actions he does because he knows it will reflect on that school. I just thought that was really tremendous. Okay, and then I want to tell a story with Brian and Carol. So his brother Lamont was a football player at Rice, and he was a scholarship player, so he's a really good football player. And the first time that he gets on a football field against the University of Texas. The person that he is defending against is Earl Campbell.
Yeah. Can you
So-
imagine?
He said it wasn't the best of
No.
best days that he had on a football field, but he said he was second in line on the depth chart, and the guy in front of him got injured, and so he comes up for the first time to come up to play, and Earl Campbell is who he's defending against.
And wasn't the score like 14-72?
Yeah, it was something really, it was really bad. Anyway, I
Dang.
thought that was cute. So I had the best day today. I was invited to Sol Ross, and that school is just an amazing secret in our school district. You walk in and just the feel on the campus, and they have created a real culture of success for their kids, and it was just an amazing visit. So a real shout out to Mr. Ortega and Ms. Alvarez for just providing such a wonderful day. And so there's one thing, so there's, you know how kids play that stock market game? I mean, it's something that that's in the school, where the kids act, as stockbrokers, and so they run their own, I guess their own brokerage account. And so Clark has done very, very well, Clark High School. Well, in this last time, I guess it was last year, suddenly these two names came up of these two little girls that were actually, in line with or better than what was being achieved in these classes at Clark. And it was these two young women at Sol Ross. And so I've decided that's who I need to be my broker. Because it is amazing that and so actually the Clark teachers called and said, hey, who are these? Who are these two? But it was just so interesting to talk to them about stocks. And I'm thinking, I know absolutely, and there I am getting ready to try to retire, and I need to be able to invest. And I was talking to them about, give me some points. So it was real cute. So we have this team of women, right? These young women, and they're just very, well, we look at this, and then if you go this high, and then we sell off, and then we reinvest. And so then I go to the next table with these two young men, and I said, well, how do you invest? And they said, well, just whatever sounds best, whatever we like. I was thinking, I'm going back to the other table. But I want to thank Ms. Gallardo. It was her GT Social Studies class, and it was really interesting to see the kids, and they have much better idea about what the stock market is and how, events in our country and in other countries impact how the investments are. It was a really great visit. And then I talked to Ms. Haywood, who was the Avid Excel class, and that's where they were doing a reading on genes. And so that's where I got point POC. So Brian, I'm going to keep that point of confusion. I really like that term. I'm going to use it with my boss tomorrow. And but so they were talking about genes, and so this young man, and he was an ESL student, was explaining, the difference. And really, I thought, that would be a challenge if you're learning to speak English and you have, you're reading about genes, and because one of them was like, well, that's what you put on. And I was like, that was not the context of, that wasn't the word that they were studying. Anyway, it was really a really interesting class, and she actually was the educator of the year last year. She was our secondary educator of the year. Then Ms. Moreno, and you know what they have at Sol Ross, which is really neat, is they have college students that come back as tutors. Mm-hmm. And so they do small student groups that the students lead the tutoring, but then they have the college student that is there to help answer any questions. It was real interesting because I'd asked, well, what do they tend to tutor on? And the kids actually have a sheet that they write down what it is that they need help with. And all 5 of the tables were doing math problems. But I thought it was just really neat that the kids bring it and then they work these problems out together. I thought that was a really great, it's a really great program. I was really impressed with that. And then I got cookies from the FCS class, and it was great. Lots of boys in there baking chocolate chip cookies, too. So that was really fun. Chris Reyna, they did a dance presentation, and so she was she has flamenco experience, and so she combined that and hip hop together to choreograph that. So that was really neat. And then, of course, the mariachis. That mariachi group at Saul Ross can compete pretty much with any of our high school level mariachi groups. They truly are amazing. And we did know that it was going to grow once we were able to give that additional support, and it has. That they are just absolutely astounding. And then I didn't realize, Bobby knows this, I'm sure, but I didn't realize on robotics, I always thought robotics competitions where that the kids, did the robots, and then they had the things and they fought each other and kind of, broke each other up. That's what I thought robotics was. When we're talking about all these robotics competitions, I'm thinking, okay, well, they're in there and their robots are, beating each other up, and whoever, falls apart loses. You can tell I haven't gone to the robotics contest yet, but I'm going to. Anyway, so they have 5 teams. And the gentleman that supports it, his name is Philip Manna, and he was with Capital Group. He's there every day, and he does this as a volunteer, and it is truly amazing. So they build the robot, and then they have to program it, and so they have to learn how to do the code to program the robot to do specific things. And so on the contest, it's having your robot do what it's supposed to do on the mat, and then they get points for how much it does. And then it's how they work together as a team. They get points. And then they also have to do a paper. And I was just really amazed that those kids, they have to do an oral presentation of a research paper that they have done. And then there's one other thing, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, tremendous amount of work that these kids do, and I just think it's really amazing that he has so many students that are really interested. It's after school, it's all volunteer, and if anyone's interested, there's a robotics competition at Driggers on Saturday. And then there's lots of other things. I got to meet with a group of teachers, a first-year teacher, and then some of the more tenured teachers. And we just talked about, the challenges of teaching, and, and they were very respectful and appreciate and understand some of the challenges that we have as a board with the state, too, on being able to do some things. But all in all, it was truly an amazing day, and it was supposed to end at 11:30, and I didn't leave till 3. Because he kept showing more, and it was wonderful. I mean, I cannot say enough. And one thing I do just want to mention is that even though it's an older campus, that campus is spotless. And he works extremely hard, and I met his head custodian, and who takes extreme pride in making sure that school is kept up and kept in good condition. And so, I don't know, that seems to be one of my pet peeves, is the condition that we make sure and keep our campuses in. And this is an older campus, and I'm going to tell you, it looked better than some of our newer campuses because of the work that they put in to make sure that this campus, and they say that they do it because they don't, their kids will come back from one of the newer campuses, and they don't want them feeling that way about their school. I mean, it was truly, if y'all want to go see a clean campus, go to Saul Ross, because they take huge pride in it. And I was just very, very impressed with everything that they were doing. It's just an amazing middle school. So anyway,
That's great.
it was a great day. I love January. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chumbley. Mr. Lopez.
I thought we only had 3 minutes.
It was a long day.
Just kidding. No, usually we're able to make allowances, but
She
but
was
no, this is
excited.
good. It was good stuff. It was good. It was good. I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you.
No, but it was just so much fun. I couldn't stop.
No, we have good humor here, so no. But no, I want to thank first of all, I did attend a couple of holiday events, and it was one of the events that I attended was a winter spectacular for middle school. It was held at a Stevens High School. It was really amazing to see the middle school talent that was there. It was really interesting to see too the level that they were performing at, and these were just beginner students, sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade students. They were performing pretty difficult numbers, so it was really good to see that. Thank you, Dr. Woods, for encouraging that program there at middle school dance, and thank you, Mr. Machoka, the director of fine arts, and all the fine arts department for supporting that program. I also had a chance to attend Driggers Elementary holiday concert. Now that was really interesting. As we know, the Driggers Elementary is right here off of Grissom Road, and their mascot is the Hound Dogs, I'm sorry, it's the Basset Hound. Basset Hound, yeah. And
The hound
it was
dogs.
really neat because the song had to do with unwanted dogs in the shelter. So it was really neat to hear that, and they got to rap. It was really good. I mean, it had a message to it, and so it was a really neat program. So I wanted to thank Mr. Bruswitz, the principal, for inviting me there. It was really great, and it was good to see them, the kids enjoying themselves. One of the other events that I did happen to go to which was I was invited for the trustees appreciation, and I was invited by Mr. Brock, Adam Brock at Thomas Hatchett Elementary. It was really neat. He was a very good guide and a very good tour guide in helping me. He showed me around the campus, showed me the programs that they were doing, and the kids. It was really interesting too. As we were walking, there was not a lot. Everybody was very disciplined, and they were quiet. But I was noticing that he would walk by and they would do this. They would do this little thing with the finger. And I said, "What are they doing?" And he goes, "Oh no, we're just saying hi to each other. We're not talking." And I said, "Oh, okay." So, so I was like, "Okay." So I was waving to some of the students there, and they're waving back. And so I was like, "Hey, that's good. I like that." So it was really neat. Very respectful and understanding that when people are coming in, there's a level that they have to behave and things like that. So it was really good discipline. And part of one of the reasons why I went was because Mr. Brock had wanted me to talk about role models. I was meeting with a group of kids that were going from fifth grade, the fifth graders, and they were meeting with some of the students from what's the school on? Yeah, the middle school right there off of Pease. Yes. Exactly. And so they were talking about, the transition, and the students, the fifth grade students and the sixth grade students were meeting together and trying to get to know each other for that transition. And so we talked about role models, and I told them who my role model was growing up, and it was interesting. I said, well, I asked them, well, so can somebody tell me their role model? And one of the students told me, he goes, Elon Musk. And I kind of looked at him and I said, Elon Musk? He goes, you know who he is? I said, yeah, I'm very familiar with him. He goes, he's a billionaire. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know the good things that he's done within the community, all right? He's changed, as far as space and travel and stuff like that, but he's really done a lot of stuff for the community and for the environment. And so I was like, wow. So he just kept rattling on, and it wasn't about the money. It was about the things that he did. And I said, well, I was really impressed. So, we had a good discussion, a good conversation. I told them why I serve, because I wanted them to, I want to be able to help kids and have them and represent kids and fight for kids and our children here at Northside. So it was a pleasure a pleasure to be at our campus and to be appreciated. But it's really us that, it's a pleasure for us to serve the community. At least, we can all say that as trustees. So it's really nice to hear a thank you every once in a while. So, but other than that, that was it. So thank you.
Well, thank
I
you,
went over
Mr.
my 3
Lopez.
minutes too.
I was going to go bzzz. I'm trying to think of a good buzzer sound. I know, that's true. All right, Mr. Blunt.
I'll do mine in 70 seconds or less.
There you go.
Karen took up 10 of my seconds. But for the TAPSY that she was talking about, that February 20th is going to be busy. Anyway, it's from 9:30 to 3:30. They're going to have a special sort of session for school board trustees also. Typically that's administrators and principals and superintendents, but they wanted to have opportunity across the state to engage trustees. So I'll get that information out so everybody can have that. I think all the trustees know book number 2, Public Education in Bexar County, that all the trustees in the Bexar County area are working on together. We've got the initial draft done, so we've sent it back out to have those update their sections. May have said last time, but remember Taft is heavily involved with setting up the template. And then Hannah Garcia, talked to her last night. She's writing a major section on the Go Public part, so she's really taking that on lead for us. So that's still ongoing. My last one in 10 seconds. If I said February 1st, it's Spurs, did everybody know what that means?
Board members,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
public.
Okay. Very good. Everybody here got their tickets. Go Public Night at the Spurs. That's a fundraiser and a great opportunity to have public education really well displayed out at the Spurs that night. So that's February 1st, and tickets are definitely still available. North side and Northeast were tied at last count. There's no reason for that to happen. We're supposed to dominate, so I'll pass that. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. You want to speak? Okay, Mr. Medina.
Just real briefly, last month was some recognitions for other members in our community, and most importantly was I'm gonna piggyback on Ms. Chumley, our custodians. The reason why I mention that is, as you know, I have 3 boys, and they're kind of scattered across, well, they're at different campuses throughout the district. And so I visit often, but also they participate in extracurricular activities outside after hours, and we some of the activities are using other facilities, and our custodians again are doing a phenomenal job keeping up with the season as illnesses rise, and the cleaning, making sure the classrooms and the schools are best prepared for students every day. And so I just wanted to make sure our custodial staff is recognized as well. The other after school care, our Learning Tree program is thriving. My son stays there because my hours are long sometimes, and I wanted to also recognize those individuals that are there. Some of them are retired teachers that are doing a very good job assisting our students with after school care. As well as last month, there was recognitions for our police, law enforcement. It is something that we do care about very, very importantly, the safety of our children, the safety of our schools, the safety of our staff. And we want to just kind of, again, go back and recognize those individuals that we like to appreciate as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So very quickly, I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what one of the things that Chief Justice Wallace said is he did attribute a lot of his own success, but his own gifts, if you will, to his family, but hand in hand with teachers and schools that he attended in Northside, and Lamont and Leah both said the same thing. And many of us are here today because it started very young, volunteering and serving to make the world a better place. And I'm grateful to be able to work with this team to continue doing that. But I just happen to have the class sponsor here, who was my class sponsor when I was a class officer and on student council at John Marshall a few years ago. Ms. Rodriguez, will you stand up just for a minute and wave at everybody, because you were wonderful. So thank you very much. And many of our stories are that because of a teacher just like you who helped us along. I do want to give special thanks. At Academics Committee, we heard about the new process for naming our next high school. And as most of you know, we name it after Supreme Court justices. And so the social studies and the language arts departments, and of course the schools that are sending the students next year, the ninth graders, are to be commended for just an incredible process. So we're very excited to kind of embrace that process next board meeting, right? At our next board. Yeah, so, and then also a pre-thank you to the Warren Culinary Arts students who are eagerly waiting to serve us. So thank you very much. Go Purple. And I get to be an owie alligator on Friday. And so I'm so excited. But one of the neat stories about the Owie family, when we were raising our kids out in Leon Springs, we went to Leon Springs Presbyterian Church, and the Owie family was an integral part of that church. And one of the Owie family members was so tickled that when they would go to HEB, he said, well, my wife goes to HEB every day because at about 3 o'clock, because walking around HEB, you see these Owie alligator t-shirts all over the place. And she just thinks that's so neat to see Owie alligators all over. So I've got kind of some stories to share about that. But anyway, and they said actually there was an alligator sighting in Leon Springs back in 1928 or something. So they were well named, because I thought that's a stretch to be an alligator in San Antonio, but I guess not. Anyway, but yes, it is. But anyway, and I think we're going to go ahead and just move on into board recognitions.
Right. If trustees will just stay
Thanks.
where you are. Good evening. So, as you well know, and as we have heard tonight, January is designated as Trustee Appreciation Month, and it is an ideal time for us to focus on the crucial role that each of you play in our schools and in our community. Even though we make a special effort to recognize this in January, we realize that this is a year-round commitment for all of you. This year's theme chosen by TASB is Launching the Next Generation. In your role as trustees, you have certainly done that. Tonight, we have several people and organizations who would like to recognize you and thank you for helping our students soar to success. I'll ask PTA Council President Tammy Bosker to come forward and make a presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. As Dr. Woods said, I'm Tammy Bosker. I'm the current PTA president for Northside Council of PTAs. And tonight I am proud to be here with two of my board members, Nicole Chapman from Brennan High School and Jordan Wagner from Hoffman Elementary.
Beautiful. Thank
Supposed to
you.
talk slow so they can do all this before I finish. So we are here to honor all of you for your dedication to Northside and our students. We thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you very much.
And we do understand that this involves a lot of travel time around our very large district. So our gift to you this evening is a snack box to keep in your car. So when you're running around all over and you haven't had a chance to stop and get something to eat, you will be fortified until your next meal. So, that being said, I do look forward to seeing all of you, or as much of you as possible, in 2 weeks at our Founders Day celebration, which will be at Brandeis High School this year. And at this time, I will turn the podium over to Dr. Caroline Wernley from Northside Museum Association.
Thank you so much. We're excited. This is perfect.
Good evening,
Good
Dr.
evening.
Harrell,
Hi.
Dr. Woods, members of the board. I'm Caroline Wernley, past president of the School Museum Association. And it's always a pleasure to be here in this public forum to say thank you for the job that you all do supporting the students and staff at Northside. Your collaborative efforts and actions have enabled Northside to be the district of choice in San Antonio, and for you all to be a model for other school districts across the state. In appreciation of your service, we have two gifts for you this evening. First, we have our 2020 School Museum Fiesta Medal designed by Benny Gonzalez. Benny, would you stand?
Benny, yay! Yay! Thank you.
Benny is a sophomore at Warren High School, and he's here
Ooh, a
this
double
evening
whammy for Warren.
with his father, Mr. Gonzalez, and his grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez.
Where are they?
Way
you go,
Additionally, Benny is supported this evening by his art instructor. Where is Mr. over there?
Oh, thank you.
Warnegris, is that? Warnegris. And I believe Valerie is here, his principal.
Yes.
There she is. Miss Sisk is here to support him as well. Second gift that we have for you this evening is the School Museum Cookbook. And
Well,
it's
fancy
entitled,
that.
it's entitled Simply the Best, Volume 2. The book was compiled, edited, and published by the School Museum Association in honor of of the school district's 70th anniversary. And work began on this school cookbook over a year ago, and under the capable leadership of two of our members, Clemmy Rodriguez and Linda Newman.
Yeah.
Along with the cookbook, we hope you will enjoy the cookies that are part of that. They were made from one of the 900 plus kitchen-tested recipes that are in the book.
Wow.
With me this evening is also Terry Pena and Mary
Hey,
Adams.
Terry.
And if y'all will distribute the gifts now. Thank you.
Thank you. And you forgot to mention that you're our new elementary school namesake,
Oh,
right? You can add that to your introductions of yourself, so.
And a
thank you.
cookie cutter.
Oh, how pretty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yay.
Oh, I can't wait to
Oh, how,
see what this
I
looks-
love it.
Oh, how
Oh,
cool.
I gotta put this on. I love it.
Beautiful.
Oh, I'm gonna say Benny did it.
Benny did that.
Way to go. I love
And
it.
at this time, I would like to turn the podium over to Kathy Nizer, who's the secretary for NIF.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Wow, this is great.
So I'm Kathy Nizer, representing Northside Education Foundation. And Northside Education Foundation is actually celebrating its 25th anniversary this entire year. So this is our big 25-year anniversary. And because of you, NEF continues to serve as a passport to the future in education and innovation in Northside. Thanks to the many hours you spend fighting the good fight and leading the charge for Northside, you clear the runway for the foundation to launch next generation innovators and hopefully some revolutionary disruptors here and there. NEF is on Twitter now, and it's great to see NEF customers being happy. So here's what your leadership, hard work, and support of NEF's mission not only looks like, but feels like on Twitter.
Oh.
Isn't that fun? They're
Yay.
showing the things they've done and saying thank you.
I love it.
It's awesome. That's cool. So we know some of those long hours you put in include travel and then some Thursday nights and Friday nights at games. So the foundation would like to recognize you by presenting you all a 25th anniversary, NEF 25th anniversary luggage tag and blankets so that you and your luggage always find their way home. And you travel with some comforts of home and can stay warm. The blankets can also help you at the football games and soccer games and maybe even protect you from the sun from solar car races. So please accept these gifts as our token of appreciation for all you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. We could use them up here.
I know.
The little chili, huh?
While we're on Brian Wood's temperature.
Speaking of that, we can turn the air down in here. It's warm in here.
Get out the blankets.
Yeah, we have a blanket, Brian.
Exactly. All good. Thanks to all of our folks who showed here tonight and really showed out to thank the members of our board. I get to say this all the time, but I don't ever want us to take it for granted. In Northside, we are so fortunate to have the quality of the folks we have serving on our Board of Trustees. Not every school district has this kind of cohesive professional board that we have continued to have over our 70-plus years as a school district. Your selflessness and the number of hours you spend in meetings and attending events is unqualified anywhere that I know. I want the audience to recognize that you don't just come to board meetings once a month. You're active in the community, attend numerous events at our schools, as we've heard about this evening, and advocate for all Northside students. Speaking of that speaking of advocating, you are our biggest cheerleaders, not only for our district, but for public education overall. You take the message of public education, public independent school district education everywhere you go, especially to our state and national legislators. And for the most part, we are fortunate to have legislative support, at least in our areas. But sometimes when you go and you advocate, you may get a cold shoulder or two. So for that reason, we have a small gift to help keep you warm. It goes along well with the foundation's gift as we launch our support for generations to come. So Vanna, will you help? I have multiple Vannas and they're working now, so.
Cold shoulder.
Look good. Let's make sure everybody gets the right size. That's important.
My. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
Somebody pull one out and display for us.
Very nice.
Football game. This is going to be perfect.
Nice.
Okay.
Very nice. Thanks to all of you. So speaking of support, we have a short video to play for you at this time. The district leaders in this video represent thousands of Northside employees who appreciate your support of them and recognize what you do on a daily basis. Last year, you may remember we showed a video with students expressing their thanks. Now here's a little counterpoint to that video.
Wow, how much time do we have? Yeah.
Our teachers are pumped and our students are pumped when they see the board members present. And our board members are very busy people and they're everywhere. They're all involved, they're in tune, no pun intended. They are in tune with what our teachers and programs are doing at the campus level and at the district level.
Well, I would just thank them for their show of support.
Northside Board, I want to thank you for the support that you give state and federal programs, which in turn is able to support our at-risk and disadvantaged students and families to receive the education that they deserve. Thank you.
When you really look at from a big picture of our district, you look at the heart of our district being academics and instruction and just all the phenomenal things that our teachers do every day in the classroom and all the programs we have instructionally. And then you look at the soul of our district, and that's all the things our kids do outside that classroom, the athletics and fine arts and the co-curriculars and just so many things that we need to be grateful for as a district. And you look at what is that common denominator, right, of why those things are so special, and that common denominator is that team of 8, you know, our board of trustees and our superintendent. So it's really a thank you times 8 because of what they do to set the precedence in this district and create the culture that we have here. And the example they set as servant leaders for us. And so we're so appreciative of that example they set for us across the district.
I would just thank them for being so forward-thinking and for planting those seeds and for just their show of support and for having that presence and for being that example and for leading by example and showing the community what it means to be engaged and to continue doing what they do.
For the board members, first of all, I want to thank them, sincerely thank them from the bottom of my heart for being visionary, for allowing creative individuals to do what we do best. Because we're eccentric. We're a different animal when it comes to the education of a child. And they recognize that. And most board members don't get that. And that's what makes Northside special. And I just want to thank them for allowing us to tell our story in a great way. And we'll be forever grateful for that.
So to the members of our audience gathered tonight, please join me as we applaud these local leaders who truly care about Northside staff, students, and patrons. Thank you for all that you do. All right, before we break for a brief reception, I want to point out that, as we've heard, tonight's reception food has been provided by the Culinary Arts Program at Warren High School. Dawn Hoyak is their instructor, and they were driven here tonight by bus driver extraordinaire, Principal Valerie Sisk. This concludes our recognitions. We'll now adjourn for a short reception. Thank you, members of our board.
And welcome back, and thank you for that wonderful celebration. And Warren, thank you. Safe driving. I think they're still serving. I do have one more recognition. It is my pleasure tonight to recognize one of our board colleagues who recently, months ago, so I don't know if that's recently, completed the Leadership TASB course of study. Leadership TASB was begun in 1993 as a way to offer advanced leadership training to experienced board members and is nationally recognized as the premier leadership training program sponsored by the Texas Association of School Boards. Upon successful completion of the course of study, the recognition of Master Trustee is bestowed. So, as honoring Mr. Gerald Lopez, and I want to give this to you, but I don't want to breathe on you because I ate like 3 of those chicken wraps. But congratulations, you actually achieved this on June 21st, so it's a belated thank you and honor. So congratulations. I'll hug you when I brush my teeth.
I'm the same way.
That was good food. Okay. All right, we are moving forward with item 7, reports, the Northside Education Foundation Annual Report.
Thank you, Dr. Hall, Dr. Woods, and the board for the opportunity to present the Northside Education Foundation's 2019 Annual Report. Some highlights to share for 2019, including NEF awarding almost $350,000 in grants.
Wow.
The annual giving campaign grew significantly. We continued the implementation of the mobile text donation and added recurring donation options, and that's helped a lot too. The NEF leadership team spent time studying Northside's growth data, public education statistics, and the way the foundation can partner with the district. This partnership allows for NEF to align its mission to the needs of Northside and to maintain continuous improvement. NEF raised close to $573,000 this year, used to award grants and to fund our endowment. The foundation continued to maintain the amount awarded as part of its grant program and various designated funds, including scholarships. The endowment is now at a healthy $5.1 million. One of the foundation's functions is to act as a conduit for donations from various sources, like individuals, businesses, and other foundations. This allows them to benefit from our nonprofit status and designate funds to specific programs and campuses. And here's a listing of our designated funds. We greatly appreciate all of these donors, and this concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you to NEF for our gifts and everything you do as well. So thank you very much. All right, citizens to be heard. Citizens wishing to address the board regarding matters not listed on the posted agenda will be heard at this time. Before we do that, let me go over the rules for addressing the board. Excuse me. We believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action. Please use the podium, address your remarks to the board, confine your remarks to a Northside policy or practice, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, At 2 minutes, the board secretary, Mr. Medina, will hold up the yellow card. At 3 minutes, the board secretary will then hold up the red card. We ask that you wrap up your remarks at that point, and please do not make any personal attacks on individuals. The audience should refrain from applause or any negative response. Thank you. Mr. Medina, do we have any citizens to be heard?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, Terry Gonzalez, please.
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Woods, board members, and panel. My name is Terry Gonzalez. I'm currently a special education collaborative teacher at Linton Elementary and have been for the last 7 years. I'm a tenured 24-year experienced teacher. I've taught 9 years in 5th grade, 6 years in 3rd grade, 2 years in 2nd grade, and 7 years in special education. Most of those years were in a bilingual setting. 20 of those have been with Northside ISD, proudly. I currently hold certifications as an ESL teacher, bilingual teacher, administration, special education, and pending certification as a bilingual reading specialist. I have a bachelor's in psychology, sociology, master's in reading, specialist, and administration. I hold my profession in very high regard, and when I first started teaching in 1996, I envisioned a fulfilling career. Never did I imagine what was to come or the disrespect from admin, district, and legislature. That in itself led me to become a union activist, not only to stand up for our hardworking public school teachers, but also to continuously advocate for our public school students. I've been in the front line supporting my district in many legislative issues affecting our noble profession and our students. In addition, I've lobbied, phone bank, block walk, and many other volunteer hours, again, to support our teachers, students, and community. Dr. Woods and several board members are aware of this. I've also represented many of my colleagues at campus level as a building representative. Due to that, I've endured retaliatory measures since August 2014, when our old principal changed my job assignment from 2nd grade classroom teacher to ALE unit teacher. That summer, he told the custodians to take everything out of my classroom and throw it in the gym. All my stuff was literally thrown in the gym, and I was told I couldn't take anything to the ALA units. 17 years of accumulated materials and varied grade levels, plus bilingual materials, majority bought out of pocket. With his assignment change, he also moved the ALE unit teacher whose passion was ALE unit, Ms. Cantu. And he moved her to 1st grade. He made those changes, offering zero support to either one of us. Unfortunately, Mrs. Cantu, dragged through this injustice, suffered a stroke that same year, caused by all the hard work induced stress. Unhappy at this campus, Ms. Cantu ended up leaving to another campus. Due to the stroke, her health deteriorated and was faced with resigning her position last year. Doctor recommendation. What is most disheartening and injustice was those such job assignment changes were in an effort to push me out of that campus, addressed in my first grievance. This was stated by the Speckett campus coordinator at the time to 5th grade teachers whom she was collabing with. Statements to follow. Personnel addressed during the time were Roxanne Gutierrez, Charlotte Powell, Cindy Davenport. I've given the district 3 grievance officers and department personnel several opportunities to address this ongoing
Ms. Gonzalez, I hate to interrupt you, but are you in the grievance process right now, currently?
No.
Okay.
It'll be filed soon after this.
I think that might be a problem. Because
I checked on the policy and it says I have the right to address the board members for awareness purposes.
okay, go ahead. I'm looking around. Just keep going, only because that's part of our role.
I checked it before coming, just to make sure. It was just for awareness at this point.
Ms. Freeman?
Can I make a statement?
Yes, no, Ms. Freeman?
So truly, we ask people that might be either in the grievance process or thinking about the grievance process, if any of us know more than what is actually in the grievance. We may have to recuse ourselves from that. So if there's more information in here,
All this will be included in there.
okay, then that still could be a problem, because if we have to legally recuse ourselves, then there won't be a
There
grievance.
won't be a grievance.
So it might be, and this is your decision, whether you continue, or it perhaps better, if you're going to go through the process, than go through the
So
process.
we address the board after the fact?
Well, no, actually, so, because my question was going to be, when you finished was, Mr. Galindo, can you help make sure that you're aware of what the grievance process is? So what happens is, and it's just kind of the same as when a teacher calls us and says that they're having a concern. And we try to get them back in the loop, because we don't want to be involved in that, where if it comes to the board, we have to recuse ourselves. And so really the process is for you to go ahead and, I know the district works hard to try to resolve issues without it going to a grievance process, but really you kind of just jumped a few steps by coming to us on it.
It
And
will,
so
it
because
can come
can.
to us.
Right.
After the
But-
fact then?
Well, it's
But
not
there's,
after the
no,
fact.
there's
It's-
different stages.
It's not after the fact, because we have a grievance process where all of the things that you are grieving, you'll be able to put within the grievance, which will go to the level 1, level 2, level 3. And then if it ends up where you need it to come to the board, then it will come to us in the level 4. But we need to give our staff the opportunity to try to resolve some of the concerns that you have. My recommendation would be for us to stop now and then go ahead and go through the grievance process, so that we don't do anything that violates your ability to come to us in a level 4 hearing. I mean, it's strictly up to you, but that would be my recommendation.
That's what brought me here, sadly. I haven't been given the due process nor due diligence, so that's why I felt, and I studied the policy that's on the handbook, and it said we could come and speak to the board, but I will be pursuing, so if I need to stop at this point, I will, and then come back later.
I think so, for your
That'd be better.
best interest. I also
Thank you for
think,
your recommendation.
going to Ms. Chumley's recommendation, I do think Mr. Galindo can talk with you out there and assure you what the process is, so.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
no, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Or Gonzalez, I'm sorry. I'm still on my teacher that took good care of me in high school, so, but thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. And thank you, Ms. Freeman and Ms. Chumley, too, for advice. We are moving now to item 9, consent agenda. Is there a motion at this point to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. Hang on. The very lengthy consent agenda. All right, we are moving to item 12, Business and Finance, the comprehensive annual financial report by certified public accountants for school year 2018-19. Mr. Rastellini, is that the last time I get to say that?
No, you can
Mr.
say it.
Rastellini.
Say it anytime you want.
Okay, there you go.
This evening, we are bringing
No, we just want-
the comprehensive financial report to the board for approval for the year ended August 31, 2019. We do have in the audience with us the lead auditor on our engagement, Victor Perello. It's going to make a brief, and I do mean brief, presentation. Start the meter, buddy.
Yeah, I needed this because they were not so brief, right? So, I know I haven't had the opportunity to speak to this group. My name is Victor Perello. I'm the senior manager on the engagement, and for tonight's evening, I'm actually the acting partner. I've been on this engagement for the last 2 years, and really 2 years even previous to that, when we were the CPA of choice at the time. I really just want to go high level on everyone and give them an overhead view of how the audit went and really open it up for questions if there are any questions whatsoever. There are two aspects to the audit. Those include the financial aspect, which is the majority of what your CAFR is, and then there's a small portion of it that sits at the back of your CAFR that speaks to the single audit. The financial aspect of it is really the majority of the information that the public uses for decision making. And then the single audit is the compliance piece that comes from all the federal and state grants. I'm happy to report that we've gotten clean opinions on both of those sections. And I'm also happy to report that we have no findings that need to be addressed by this group regarding any deficiencies with this organization. So, is that fast enough for you, Dave?
That's pretty,
Okay.
that's pretty good.
But I do, if anybody has any questions whatsoever, I've had the opportunity to talk to your finance committee, and
Was that from last time?
That was from last time. Yeah, Carol just, yeah.
Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any other questions about the report? None?
And you went over in finance.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, just-
So, yeah, we,
Just real quick, a standard
Sure.
one, if I can. And I guess just based on the presentation you gave and the statement you made, there was no reason whatsoever to meet with the board separately, correct?
correct, yeah. So generally, the information that I report to the finance committee, in the event that I feel that it's necessary for us to have an additional meeting with the board with findings or material adjustments,
Right.
we ask for those meetings.
Okay,
We haven't had
good.
one of those.
Thank you.
All right, Ms.
Makes up
Freeman?
Question. Wait a minute. Go ahead, Karen, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to say, I know that our staff had a lot to do regarding providing the information to you that you needed, and in so doing, it makes your job easier if the staff presents it in a logical and accurate manner, and you have all the information that you need to make your, to have your opinion, if you
Correct,
will,
yeah.
regarding the CAFR. So I appreciate our staff's work in helping you do your job. And so this is like getting an A+, you know? And it's a book that tells the story of our financial situation in the district, and it's all good. So
Yeah, I mean,
congratulations to Mr. Rastolini and to Northside and all your staff and everybody that had a hand in that.
yeah, personally, I've worked with these guys for the equivalent of 4 years. And so we do ask them a lot of hard questions. It's not just providing information. Really, we have to feel comfortable with the opinions that we're providing to you, because it's our name on it as well. And at the end of the day, the questions, he's been able to provide the answers. And really, it's not just Dave, it's Wes and the rest of his group. So very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Chumley?
Okay, so I just want to make sure, probably preaching to the choir, but I just want to make sure you understand, because you made the comment a couple of times here about presenting to the finance committee, but that our board committees, that's an advisory committee, so actually your presentation in relation to this is to the board.
Correct.
Not the finance committee.
Correct.
And I just want to make sure that we're all, because we've had this discussion, this team of 8, a few times, that our auditor understands that it is not the finance committee that you present to, it's to this team of 8.
Absolutely.
That you present to. The finance committee has no approval power
You're absolutely
at
right.
all.
Yeah, and so just kind of to kind of reiterate kind of how our process works, really. I understand that they have subcommittees at almost every government level, which speaks to, over ensuring that our process and what we're doing, the services that we're providing are actually done appropriately, that we're becoming independent. And so this group oversees a lot of that. Obviously, we present to this group, but at the end of the day, y'all make the decision. This group is really well informed, at least in the times that I've had the ability to speak to them, and the questions that come out of it, especially from Dave's perspective and whatnot and stuff, are to the point where I think they cover a lot of the questions that come from the board. Really, at the end of the day, I understand what my audience is, and I really appreciate when the questions that Dave, being a former auditor, can actually ask me some of those a little bit off the books. So
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Chumley. Any other discussion? All right, there's been a motion and a second. No?
Not yet.
All right, I
Gerald's-
was
it's
waiting for you,
coming.
Mr. Lopez.
It's coming.
Thank you.
Well, like we all said, a couple, some of the board members had talked about it in the Finance Committee report. At the end of the day, the report indicates that the district is in sound financial condition and is able to maintain a stable fund balance in the face of continued uncertainty surrounding school finance in Texas. So with that, I move for the approval of the 2018-19 annual financial report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. It's been approved. Thank you very much for our comprehensive annual financial
Thank you.
report. Thank you.
Dr. Harrell, if I could just briefly, before we leave this item, a lot of the on-the-ground work for the financial report and for helping the external auditor get to where they need to be falls on Wes and his team. So I want to thank that group of folks for all of their work. This is a big chunk of how they spend the fall, for sure. And I also want to point out, as was previously mentioned, this will be the last agenda item that Mr. Rastellini presents to the Northside Board of Trustees. There's been some discussion recently of David's excitement at this being his last board meeting, but in all seriousness, we thank David for his diligence and his care for Northside staff and patrons and students, and he will be missed in this organization. We'll have an opportunity here in a couple of weeks to say more about David, but I didn't want to let this go without thanking David for his work in Northside. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we see that little dance one more time? All right, thank you. All right, we're moving to item 15, administration. Boundary change from Scarborough Elementary School to Knowlton Elementary School. Mr. Galindo.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Harrell, the next two items actually are connected. In our efforts to relieve Scarborough Elementary School, it's over 1,000 students, we brought to you already two proposals.
Thank you.
To move two groups of children, one to Knowlton and one to Burke. And Burke includes a group of about 90 children, and Knowlton about 170. And so together we hope that those children moving into where we have capacity at those campuses will offer some relief to Scarborough. Although still in the out years, we're still looking probably to have another school to relieve it. It's growing so much in that area. So took a little bit of a different approach. Rather than having one hearing at a middle school, as we informed you, we had two hearings at the actual receiving schools. So there's two areas for the two schools and the two proposals, and we had the two hearings, one on January the 7th for Knowlton and on the 13th for Burke. And here to give us a summary of those hearings is our SBAC chair, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Fernando Garcia.
Good evening, Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, board members. First of all, I'd like to take a moment to thank you as a parent of a Northside student. Thank you for your commitment and your service to the district. As Mr. Galindo said, my name is Fernando Garcia. I am the chair for the School Board Advisory Committee. We are here this evening to present the committee's recommendation on the boundary change that would impact Scarborough, Knowlton, and Burke elementary schools. There are many general issues in establishing the school boundary that require attention. The goal of this boundary change is to relieve the overcrowding at Scarborough and utilize available capacity at the existing schools. As you know, each time we do this, we follow the decision principles that you task the SBAC with, such as maintaining the neighborhood integrity, reviewing all growth projections, program accommodation and student needs, cost effectiveness, and frequency of change for each student. The first proposal we will talk about would be the Scarborough to Knowlton boundary proposal. A public hearing was held at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 7th at Knowlton Elementary School with 15 SBAC members attending the hearing. The Scarborough to Knowlton proposal moves approximately 170 projected students from Scarborough Elementary. Prior to the hearing, 92 letters were mailed and emailed to families of students in grades E through 4th grade who might be affected by the proposed boundary change. As of January 7th, 10th written comments and no phone calls were received. Written comments from 2 additional parents were reviewed after the public hearing. A total of 13 parents and children attended the public hearing. As part of the SBAC presentation, Dr. Miriala Alarcon spoke to those attendants about the campus life at Knowlton Elementary. Three people spoke to this proposal with the following comments. They were worried about their family specific moving to Scarborough, to the area to go to Scarborough, increased traffic and travel times, concerns about transportation to the new campus, and will they be happy with and successful at Knowlton. Expressed concerns, unique or special needs of their children, concerns about daycare and transportation, concerns about multi-moves for military families. As a committee, we discussed all the feedback and specifically discussed the following items. The dual language program at Knowlton Elementary, transportation plans for the families if the boundary is approved, challenges to the military families with multiple moves, the monitoring of class sizes and staff requirements if the boundary is approved, transportation and commute times, the 504 and special education program and its requirements. The SBAC reviewed this information and all the available data, and based on our decision on how they would relate to the growth at Northside, we look to the future effects of the recommendation and believe this recommendation will serve the children of Northside well. We feel our recommendation meets the needs of Northside while addressing the overcrowding at the existing schools and future growth issues. So, for our recommendation regarding the Scarborough to Knowlton Elementary School boundary proposal, by a vote of 15 for and 0 against, the administrative proposal for the attendance zone change was approved. This proposal moves a projected 170 students from Scarborough to Knowlton Elementary School. Any questions?
Mr. Lopez? Oh, it must have been in carryover. Any questions? No,
Nope,
thank you
okay.
very much, though.
So, I will now present the Scarborough to Burke Elementary.
If I could interject here, because there were two different hearings, Dr. Harrell, and we bring them forth as two different items, we'll need a vote for each of them.
For
so-
each one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So, you want to do the vote now or after?
Let's go ahead and do the vote now.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, it's been approved. Thank you.
So I will now present the Scarborough to Burke Elementary School boundary proposal. Public hearing was held at 6:30 p.m. Monday, January 13th at Burke Elementary School with 10 SBAC members attending the hearing. The Scarborough to Burke proposal moves approximately 92 students from Scarborough to Scarborough Elementary. Prior to the hearing, 74 letters were mailed or emailed to families of students in grade E through 4th who might be affected by the proposed change. As of January 13th, no written comments or phone calls were received. No parents attended the public hearing, but we did get to watch a video that the school and the principal prepared showcasing the school, which is kind of nice. During our deliberation, we did discuss the lack of parent comments, some transportation items, and and how well the school was going to work to provide a transition plan to welcome the new parents. We recognize that the parents' voices are a significant boundary change. However, in this proposal, the lack of voice spoke clearly to the committee. We feel that our recommendation meets the needs of Northside while addressing overcrowding at the existing schools and future growth. So for our recommendation regarding the Scarborough to Burke Elementary School boundary proposal, by a vote of 10 for and 0 against, the administrative proposal for the attendance zone change was approved. This proposal moves a projected 92 students from Scarborough to Burke Elementary Schools.
Okay, thank you again. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Ms. Chumley?
I just had, who all did we send the letters out to on this change? The Scarborough to
Burke?
To Burke.
All the children that were going to be affected, and so
Area
not
B,
only
parents.
not only the via U.S. mail, but electronically as well, just like we did for the other one. We've added the electronic version in order to have one more means of communication to capture as many folks as we can.
Okay. I just find that really interesting that you had no parents. How many kids do we have? How many kids is this impacting?
That was 92.
Really? That's just really,
Well, if you look at, you had 90 children affected here and 0. At the other one, we had 170, almost double, and we had 13 parents show up, so.
I just find that odd that not one parent had a concern about the move. I'm not sure exactly what that says. Either we're doing a really good job or no
Well-
one was paying attention to what they were receiving in the mail.
Yeah, one thing, as Mrs. Reed said, some of these children may already have, some of these families may already have children at Zachary there in middle school. So for a number of them, we've heard that it'll be more of a convenience in that they'll be able to take both children now to the same location, generally speaking. And so we think that helped.
And I want to thank you again for setting up the hearings the way you're doing. I think having them at the actual school is just really a good idea to do that.
And to piggyback on one of your comments, that school was exceptionally clean.
Another great looking school.
Good to hear.
Yes, it was both the schools were very immaculate, and so
That's
hopefully
great.
the kids will be happy on the move. So thank you.
That's
Okay,
great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, wait,
we
all
got
right, we're going to take the vote, just in
Have to vote,
case.
yes.
All right.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve?
I had a button pushed.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
Go
ahead, Ms.
I
Reed.
just kind of wanted to emphasize something that we'd already kind of talked about anyway. If you look at where Scarborough is located and that section B, how close it is to the other school, it really is much more convenient. And if I remember correctly, that's mostly all apartment complex.
There,
Is it?
Apartment complex and a manufactured home community.
Okay.
Combination.
So, I don't know whether, I mean, if they looked at that boundary, they would say, oh, gosh, we're gonna get
We're
much closer to, than where we have been having to go, and it's much further out there on the bus and everything else, so it makes good sense.
I think
And
everybody's just frustrated with all the traffic on.
Yeah,
Oh, y'all's
well,
traffic is
They will have to go across 14,
I think what we had kind of discussed as a
04,
committee is as you come out of the access road, you can just do a U-turn underneath the access road without even crossing.
Without even
Yeah.
hitting
Yeah,
lights.
just U-turn and then go around the backside, so it probably helped.
Yeah.
And in both of these areas, if they choose not to drive, we will provide transportation.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
good.
So, so anyway, I would move that we approve the boundary change.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those opposed, all those in favor, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed? You can tell when I start getting tired. All those opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it.
Mine
And-
was a yay.
Yeah, it was a yay?
I was saying an
Okay.
A.
Our next one will be yee-haw, so when we get closer to rodeo. I know.
The committee would also like to further recommend that the families be notified via the north side website.
Is that how we do it? Okay.
We will
Great.
do that in the morning.
Thank you
to
so much,
the
and thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time, too,
Thank
and the
you, Mr.
committee's
Garcia.
time. Thank you, thank you. All right, we will move to review of legal policies, and the update number 114. Mr. Galindo.
Yes, ma'am. Update 114. So on the legal side, as you are used to on your computers, you have both the summaries that you're accustomed to see, where there's at least a dozen. Actually, I think this one has about 15, 16 legal policies that are summarized for you, along with the policies themselves, which if you did take a peek, there's over 900 pages of them. And so a lot of it, however, really just cleanup of different policies that doesn't really impact some of what we're doing in terms of our practice. But be that as it may, we do have some to go over with you. And what I'd like to do is go over some that are going to really affect the local policies. And I'll let Naomi go into a real detailed coverage of those in just a bit, but giving you a little bit of background. These, of course, come as a result of the 86th legislative session that occurred last year. And so the general theme, although there's some that affect the B section, which affects governance, and you'll hear in a little bit a couple of policies in regard to public comment and posting of meetings. I guess the general theme, I think, that affected most of our local changes is safety and security, and that comes as a result of a number of Senate and House bills. You'll hear and see in just a bit the effect and now how clearly EOPs will be mentioned quite a bit, which is the Emergency Operation Plan that needs to exist, which I've mentioned the policy before. We've had in existence for quite some time in our district, both at the campus and district level. You'll hear about security personnel and their role in terms of security, and for us, obviously, it's our fully commissioned police department. You'll now hear a little more detail in terms of cybersecurity. training that needs to occur, and a point of contact that we have to designate as a district. Those are all primarily are in the support services area, but we also have some policies in the personnel and the student sections that are affected again by these legal policies, and you'll see in just a bit with the local policies. One of them, for example, is in regard to transfers and what exactly is a student transfer that will need to be able to provide for a student if there's a safety issue. You'll see some language there. You'll hear more about, and probably in the coming years, on threat assessment teams and how they, with the role that they play at the campus and district level. You'll also hear about trauma-informed care and what we're doing there, so there'll be some policies that are affected there, and there again, we already have some initiatives that will cover what we need to do in regard to that. And even student records as well. There's also under personnel some changes with LTC carrying folks, licensed to carry and firearms, and they are affected. And then the instructional section, there was one local that you'll see that was affected by legal policy, and it involves the GT program. And so that's kind of not even a 10,000, more of a 30,000 foot overview of the legal policies. But to give you a little bit more of the detail in the local policies, I'll I'll hand it over to Ms. Miller, who will go over the local policies that are affected through Update 114. Naomi?
Okay, before Naomi, just a second. Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, before you do, and if I missed it by a meeting, let me know. Can you explain also why this is strictly for discussion? Or does everybody already know? Okay, yeah, we probably need to tell the others, yeah.
Very good, I can do that.
I've done that.
Oh, you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
We don't
But-
get to approve anymore, we just get, because we don't get to vote on it, because.
Oh, I know,
all we
I know.
do is
I
just
thought,
get-
yeah, I wasn't sure we wanted to put on a record, though. I couldn't remember if we had that conversation.
We can do it.
We bring it this, okay.
So in the past, the board has looked at legal policies, even when they were 900 pages, and actually given approval. What we've seen happen in at least one situation in the last couple of years is that approval, even though essentially all the board was doing was approving what had already been passed in statute, actually generated some negative legal action against the district when somebody was trying to challenge the law. They went after folks who had approved the policy as a way to get at the law, because it's hard to sue the state. It's relatively easy to sue a local organization. So after discussion with TASB and with our legal counsel and with the members of the board, I think we agree that reviewing the legal policies is sufficient to get the board up to speed and do education, and it's not necessary for the board to actually approve those policies. It is certainly still necessary for the board to consider and approve local policies, which is where we go next. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead. So, let me make sure that I understand, though, within that scope, I thought that we always had to adopt the legal policies, but it's my understanding we don't have to do that. Right. So we have the right to not adopt a legal policy, whereas before it was we had one reading, we voted on it and adopted it because we were told that we didn't have a choice. But we do have a choice on that. Is that correct?
It's not required that you approve legal policies.
But do we have a choice if we have these legal policies as our policies?
No,
No.
they're the laws of the state.
Okay, so then I'm confused. So what we're doing is, because of that other situation, we're just not approving them, we're just reviewing them now
Correct.
so that we're null on it.
Yes.
Okay, so we still have if they come up with a stupid change, which they do periodically, we have no recourse still.
Well, we have no recourse via the policy front. Theoretically, a law could be passed that we thought was in violation of our rights as a school district, and we could then go to court with the state, but we couldn't just pick and choose which policies to follow and which not to, because they are, on the legal side, they're the law of the land.
Right, and CASB's the one that has reviewed the legal pieces and then they write the policy to match what their opinion is of the bills that have been passed.
Right. And then we study it and bring a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Woods, Dr. Harrell, and members of the board. So I've put this overview together. This was the first time you'll see this format, obviously, for the local updates for update 114. There are 19 locals. I'll go through them pretty fast, so if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. Mr. Galindo just went over the legal policies. I've got this switched. But we'll go over the customized update material for the locals. I'm going to start with BDAF, and these are going to go in order, like they are in your packet. BDAF has been deleted because a local policy is not necessary. It's covered under CCG legal. This is requiring the board to be able to employ a person to assess or collect a district's taxes. So it's been deleted. BE Local has reduced the time required for posting emergency meetings from 2 hours to 1 hour, and that's as a result of Senate Bill 494. Also on board meetings, Mr. Galindo touched on this. House Bill 2840 says that boards must allow for public comment before an agenda item, and that the public may comment on any topic at a regular meeting, but they have to stick to an agenda item at special meetings. The policy committee recommended that we change the order of our citizens to be heard because of this. So you'll see that citizens to be heard is now before the consent agenda as of today. CDA local authorizes investment of bond proceeds, but clarifies that they must be invested in no-load mutual funds. Ask me what that is. I don't know. But David has told me that we don't use these kind of funds for investments, and we do not intend to. And we will continue to prepare the annual portfolio report for board approval. CH local made a change. It deleted that the superintendent can designate someone for purchasing, but that's covered under BJA local, which permits the superintendent to delegate this duty. So that change in CH local is actually covered under BJA local. So going on to school safety, these are a couple of school safety bills that passed. You have CKC local, which adds that we have to have an active shooter plan as part of our emergency operations plan, which I think we already have, right? It adds that substitute teachers have to have the same resources in the event of an emergency as employed teachers. CKE local says that school peace officers are prohibited from being assigned routine student discipline. And those are the bills that passed on those two. Mr. Galindo mentioned this, Senate Bill 820. CQ local is going to move to a new local policy, CQB, that requires us to develop a cybersecurity plan, train our employees and our board members, and to designate a cybersecurity coordinator.
Notice that says train employees and board members. Coming to a theater near you.
Yeah. Okay.
Go when you train like a school, can we just go?
Okay, by me, I was thinking y'all might get an abridged version that you might appreciate more, but.
So I mentioned BJA local earlier. DFFA incorporates BJA local changes that permits the superintendent to designate a delegate for duties in relation to forced financial exigency. This is the bill that doesn't change, it changes one part of the law. It doesn't change who can bring a weapon onto school property. It changes whether or not that weapon can be loaded and kept in a person's car, a license to carry holder. Before, the law said that you could have your gun and you could have your ammunition, but they had to be separate. House Bill 1143 says we cannot dictate that anymore. So now the weapon has to be out of plain view, but it can be loaded. And you'll see this come up in another local policy.
How does that apply to students? Students
Doesn't.
get a carry?
It doesn't.
Right. Because you have to be 21 to get an
Yeah.
LTC.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
Here's the change from House Bill 3 on our GT program. As you'll know, the GT allotment was repealed, and those funds were folded into the general fund, the school fund. So because there's not a GT policy, House Bill 3 dictated that we have to report to TEA how we're using our GT funds. We have to adopt a policy regarding the use of those GT funds. And we have to follow a GT program that's consistent with a state GT plan. So this was just to guarantee that districts were going to continue their GT programs. School safety transfers. So there's a list of criminal offenses that are committed by a student where we have to record certain data. This just adds a couple of more criminal offenses to that already existing list. FFAA local says that it changes UIL physicals for kids. So prior to a student participating in a UIL or other extracurricular program, they have to be medically cleared. Before it said they had to be physically able. Now they have to be medically cleared, and it deletes athletic from extracurricular. So it's not only athletic programs, it's anything band and certain things. These two are new. These are as a result of Senate Bill 11, which was the comprehensive school safety bill that was by Senator Taylor, who's the chair of Senate Education. It says that trustees must adopt procedures for threat assessments and safe and supportive teams, and that we must adopt trauma-informed care procedures. These are just a couple you're going to see from Senate Bill 11. It's huge, so I'm sure we're going to see more stuff come down. Continuing on, FL Local says that because we do these safe and supportive school programs, it adds that whoever our appointee is has access to certain student records. Also a result of Senate Bill 11. GBAA Local is from Senator Huffman out of Houston. This was probably a result of Hurricane Harvey. It says that the board can suspend the PIA process during a catastrophe. This was one of many bills that came down because of that as well. This is the other local under conduct on school premises about the loaded weapons. And that's it.
Ran the gamut.
Always busy after a legislative session.
Are there any questions from the board?
This is first reading, so if you do, we'll bring them back next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you very
presentation.
much.
Naomi.
Yeah, that was very palatable.
Yes, it was. All right, now we are request for maximum class size waivers. Mr. Galindo.
Yes, ma'am. So tonight, hopefully, this may be the last installment of this, although we do have our next board meeting before the deadline, or the date, I should say, which is March 2nd, which is the last day to report. So that being said, we do have a request for 17 class waivers for this month. Last year at this meeting, we requested 22. And so we are a bit, we're right about the same, I should say, as we were from last year. So the ask or the approval is for 17 class waivers for this month.
Thank you, Mr. Galindo. Are there any questions? Any discussion? All right, is there a motion?
I recommend approval of the class size waivers as presented.
Second? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Class size waivers have been approved. Dr. Woods, future agenda items.
Yes, ma'am. In the blue folder at your place, you've got a list of items that we're tracking for future meetings. You've also got a whole lot of other things, like a copy of the student newspaper from Stevens High School. You've got various receptions, including the retirement celebration for Mr. Rastellini, which is a week from Friday. Already mentioned, Go Public Night at Spurs game, February 1st. You got a reminder about that. Mid-year graduation reception, which is held for Excel students who are graduating at Stinson just the evening prior to the ceremony. And then also, as mentioned tonight, Founder's Day on February the 6th. Invitation for you there. And special note, you've got a card of thanks and a gift card from some of the high school principals, so might want to take that out before you file that file. Yes, very nice. So that's it, Dr. Harrell.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will now move into executive session at 9 o'clock. All right, we are back at 9:43. Need a motion for the proposed settlement as discussed in executive session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Excuse me? Go ahead. Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. A motion for administrative appointments?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay? Okay, the ayes have it.
Done deal.
And we are done
Good
at
night.
9:44. Thank you.